Hi ladies, now we can't pour from an empty cup, so here's how to refill it. Now welcome back to the channel. My name's Heidi and this is day 7 of 30 days of perimenopause. Now today I'm going to be talking about self-care rituals, about our body and how we can thrive through this transition of perimenopause. Now the first thing I'm going to talk about is morning journaling. So my daily habit would be journaling in the evening, so when I get into bed and reflect on my day. But a lot of people do also journal in the morning, so they like to set the tone for the day or reflect on the day before. Now some tips that are useful for journaling that I use is basically reflection. So how did my day go? If it wasn't a great day, I reflect on why, and then how I can make that better for myself the following day. Another tip would be for you to write down affirmations, positive affirmations, gratitude. A lot of people write a gratitude journal, so the things that you're grateful for, even if it's just making a habit of putting in your journal one thing that you were grateful for that day, and then at the end of your journaling do an affirmation so that you can say something positive about yourself. So if you've had a pretty tough day but you've managed to get through it, then you can write an affirmation, I am resilient, for example. Now, we're often told to reflect and write in journals about all the good things that have happened, all the good things that you know about yourself. But it is also important to work through your emotions from that day or how you're feeling in that moment. So if you've had a bad day, you've been in a bad mood, or you feel like you're raging about something, then write that down as well. There's a good tip, a rage page, which is basically a piece of paper where you can write down all the words that you're feeling or the things that you're thinking about that you might consider negative and you perhaps don't want to voice them, or stuff that's milling through your brain. Get it out and onto a page, write all those words down, and then you don't have to look at it again. Obviously you can say them out loud as well, but sometimes writing them down and then maybe ripping at the page, throwing it away, you've kind of processed those feelings and emotions. That is a good tip that I would give for morning journaling as well. Now the next thing that I'm going to talk about is movement and stretching. So in lots of self-help books, well-being books, and obviously when you go to the doctors, they will always advise you to exercise. Now during perimenopause, sometimes you have days where you do feel really, really tired, your body does ache, you don't feel great. But there are exercises such as yoga and Pilates, which is considered, it has elements of lighter exercises where you can just stretch out your body, make sure you're still moving each day. I personally will do yoga when I want to do yoga, and I just find a channel on YouTube, find a basic yoga training session and get on with that. It can be, I think the shortest yoga training that I found is probably about 10 minutes, which is very doable on those days where you really don't feel like doing some full-on exercise. Now another thing that I hear quite a lot about now on social media is weight training. So strength training, they call it, I think, where you can just use lighter weights or those, I've forgotten what they're called now, using resistance bands. Again, if you go onto YouTube, you can usually find any type of exercise, any type of training. Now, I have read that you could stretch every hour for 5 minutes, which being realistic, that's not something that everyone can do day to day, especially if you're at work, or remember to do, unless you set yourself a reminder. But yes, stretching, you can stretch in your chair, you can stand up at your desk, stretch your legs, your arms. If you feel like too self-conscious to do that, then you could just get up and go for a walk. You're still stretching your legs, roll your shoulders. Oh, I'm constantly doing that because of back strain. But 5 minutes every hour is supposed to be beneficial too. Okay, so the next part is mindful eating. So are we considering what we're eating each day, what we're having for our meals? Are we putting the essentials in our diet that we need? For example, fruit and veg, lean proteins, healthy fats. Also, for gut health, there's lots of recommendations for your gut health to eat things like natural yogurt, kefir, I think, or kefir. Sauerkraut is another recommendation. That isn't something that I particularly like, but it's an example of a good gut health food. And a good one is chewing, so chewing slower. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I feel like I'm permanently on the run and rushing, you know, fitting in all the meals, breakfast, before you're running out for the school run or going to work or going to uni, grabbing lunch. I feel like that is the word. We're grabbing breakfast, grabbing lunch. You get home, you have your dinner. You're rushing your dinner because you've got to take your children to their after school club or whatever it might be. Actually slowing down, chewing it slower. I have tried to do that. I've tried to make a conscious effort to eat slower, eat my meals slower, and you actually then can remember what you've eaten. You can actually taste it, and that does make a good difference. Now, chewing slowly is supposed to be a benefit to overeating. So if you eat slower and your body's processing the food slower, you realise that you'll full up sooner, if that makes sense. Now, the final self-care ritual I'm going to talk about is boundaries. Now, boundary setting is definitely something that we should all be doing, but it is also something that can feel very uncomfortable. But some very basic boundaries can just be that you're setting aside some time for yourself, whether it's just 5 minutes or whether it's just 10 minutes or whether it's half an hour. So blocking out time, for example, if you've got appointments in your diary, put an appointment in your diary for yourself. And whether that's going to the gym, whether that's reading a book, going for a walk, meeting up with a colleague or a friend to have a catch up, that is setting a boundary for your time for you, time for yourself. Boundaries are very personal, so it might just be that you want to set a boundary that all the family eat together at the same time, or it could be that you set a time for sleep. So your boundary is, no, I will not stay up past 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever it might be. That is when you go to bed. Now, one boundary that I personally have set for myself is reading. So I love reading, but if I've got a lot going on, or if any of my children are home, I can't really read unless they're distracted with something else. So my reading time is set for bed, so at bedtime, so I go to bed a little bit earlier, and then that enables me to switch off. It does relax me and makes me sleepy, ready to go to sleep and hopefully have a good night's sleep. Now that goes ahead and finishes today's topic on rituals and self-care. If you can, drop a comment down below and tell me one of those that you would like to try, or a boundary that you have already set for yourself that works. Pop that in the comment and we'll get a conversation started around that too. Now, thank you for listening, and I will see you again tomorrow.